Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are going deep on leveling up our English today.
That's right.
And we have got this resource.
Uh-huh.
Vocab Advanced 2010.pdf.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing.
Oh.
You ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
Okay, so
Let's go.
Vocab Advanced 2010.pdf.
Okay.
It's for like advanced English learners.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Basically, if you're feeling good about the basics,
Right.
this is gonna
Okay.
take you to the next level.
So it's like I can speak English, but I want
You
to
own it.
own it.
Own it.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the first thing I noticed was this section on prepositions.
Okay.
Now, I'll admit
Yeah.
prepositions trip me up
They're so tricky.
sometimes.
Yeah, I know. They really are. But,
I mean, little words, but
yeah, they're so small, but they can really
Yes,
mess you up.
And so I thought it was cool that they're in here
Right.
and they have simple examples.
Yeah.
Like they show you how to use by
Yes.
for different types of transportation.
Totally.
By bike,
Yeah. By bus.
by plane.
By train.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's great.
Yeah.
And then there's this other part
Okay.
that talks about the difference between on account of,
Yeah.
because of,
Yes.
and due to.
Oh, interesting.
And I've always thought that they were like
I know a lot of people think that.
basically the same.
Yeah.
But I guess they're not.
They are similar.
Okay.
But on account of is
Oh.
definitely the more formal one.
Oh, okay. So like if I'm writing an email
Exactly.
to someone important.
Yes. Use that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
So we've got the prepositions.
Right.
Now we're getting into the
Yeah.
like the real meat
The good stuff.
of the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And this section on thinking
Yes.
really
Yeah.
caught my eye.
Yeah.
Because you know how sometimes you just say I think all the time.
Yeah, we all do.
And it's kind of boring.
Yeah, exactly.
So this gives you all these other ways to express what you're thinking.
Express your thoughts.
You can say I deduce or
Yes.
or I speculate.
I assume. Yeah.
It's very cool.
I really like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Especially I think
Yeah.
if you work in a professional setting,
Totally.
it would be really helpful
Definitely.
to be able to
Yes.
express yourself clearly.
Yeah, and be persuasive
Yeah.
with your ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
Okay.
from thinking, they have this whole section on
Okay.
leisure activities.
Yeah.
So like if you like to play sports or
Yeah.
if you like to listen to music,
If you have hobbies. Yeah.
this is the place for you
This is where you go
Yes.
to find the vocabulary.
to talk about all those things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that because I think learning new languages, it
Yeah.
opens up so many
It doesn't.
possibilities to connect with people.
I completely agree.
And being able to talk about something you're passionate about
Yeah,
is a great way to like
totally.
build relationships.
It is like
Yes.
a common ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then speaking of connecting with people,
Yes,
they have a whole section on travel,
of course.
which I think is so cool.
So important.
Because if you can book flights,
Uh-huh.
navigate foreign cities, and talk about your trips in English,
Yes.
that's
It
amazing.
opens up the whole world.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready to book a trip right now.
Let's go. But,
Hold on. Before we go,
okay.
we got to talk about these sections.
That are called verbs and nouns.
Yes.
So
Those are good.
what's the deal with those?
Yeah. Basically, they give you a ton of action words
Right.
and then the nouns that go with them,
Okay.
like the corresponding nouns.
Got it.
It's really helpful for making
yes.
your English sound more varied and sophisticated.
So like
Yeah.
instead of using the same verb
Exactly.
over and over again,
You got options.
I have options.
So you got choices.
I can mix it up.
Mix it up.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. And it also helps you understand those subtle differences in meaning. Like when a verb becomes a noun,
Okay.
it just adds more nuance
Okay.
to your language.
So beyond just learning the words, I'm learning how to like
Exactly.
really use them properly.
Use them well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know what always gets me?
Okay.
It's those idioms.
Yeah. Oh, the idiom.
Those expressions that just,
They're so tricky.
I know,
No.
you don't make any sense.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you try to like translate them directly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't translate them literally.
You can't know.
Yeah.
But luckily,
Yes.
Vocab Advanced 2010.pdf has got us covered.
They do.
They do.
They have a whole section
They have a whole section on idioms.
on idioms with prepositions.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
It's so helpful.
so helpful.
Yeah.
Because there are so many idioms that I've
Yeah.
been afraid to use because I didn't want to.
You don't want to sound silly.
Sounds silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is going to help me feel more confident
That's great.
using them.
Awesome.
Okay, so from those tricky idioms,
Yeah.
we're going into this like
What-
deeper section on society,
Yes.
which talks about like socialization,
Interesting.
peer pressure,
Big topic.
the generation gap.
Yeah, that one's always relevant.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it never goes away.
Yeah, you would think it would go away,
You'd think.
but it never does.
Nope.
And then it just keeps going.
And this document keeps going.
This document keeps going.
Yes.
We've got education, multicultural society,
Important.
mass media.
It's like they thought of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew what we needed.
What we needed.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They did good.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm realizing
What is you realizing?
it's not just about knowing all these like fancy words.
Okay.
It's about like
Yeah.
understanding how they all connect.
It's the connections.
Yeah.
It's the big picture.
It is. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is.
Okay. We've barely scratched the surface.
We've barely started.
We've barely started.
Yeah.
What
Say
else?
some more.
What else is coming up?
Well, nice.
We're going to get into some of the heavier topics.
Keep bringing it up.
Law and order,
Yeah.
the economy, and even politics.
Oh, boy.
Buckle up.
Okay.
That's going to be good.
I'm ready.
All right. All right. So we're getting into the heavy stuff now.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Law and order.
Okay. I am intrigued.
It's like, it's surprisingly in-depth.
Oh, really?
Like, it's not just about knowing,
okay.
like, robbery versus theft. It's like, it really goes into,
Right.
like, the whole legal process.
Oh, cool. So like Law and Order, but with real vocab.
Yes.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
So it explains things like,
It explains stuff like evidence,
okay, evidence.
verdict,
Okay.
even capital punishment.
Wow. Okay.
Like, all these kind
Yeah, those are big,
of words.
big concepts.
And I feel like we use them sometimes
Right.
without really knowing what they mean.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
They kind of throw them around,
Yeah.
but this actually like
All right.
defines them clearly.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And it goes into like,
And it even like goes into the differences
okay.
between murder and manslaughter,
Oh, wow.
which are like
yeah,
one word different,
huge.
but very different legally.
Right.
Yes.
Like really different consequences.
yeah, big time.
Okay. Wow.
So
That one's intense.
it is.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
lighten it up a little bit.
All right. Where you go?
How about the economy?
Okay. The economy.
Is this where I learn all the like secret Wall Street lingo?
Well, maybe not all the secrets,
Okay.
but you'll definitely learn some.
Right.
You'll get a good foundation.
Okay. Cool.
It covers, everything from like supply and demand,
Okay.
which is, pretty basic.
Right.
But then it gets into stuff like trade deficits,
Okay.
economic growth.
I hear those
Yeah, you hear them.
all the time. Do you really know what they mean?
Not really.
This will teach you.
Okay, awesome.
So yeah, it's good.
I like that.
Yeah. And it even goes beyond just like
Okay.
the numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
It talks
right.
about like different economic systems, like the difference between,
Yeah.
nationalization and privatization,
Right.
who controls the industries.
Those are some
Yeah.
those are hot button topics.
Those are big questions.
Yeah, and I feel like
Yeah.
if I knew the vocab,
Yes.
I could follow those
You'd be able to
conversations better.
follow along better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And even form
Yeah. And even like,
your own opinions.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it talks about,
It also talks about,
Okay.
it doesn't just stay like high level.
Right.
It talks about things like poverty,
right.
wealth,
Right.
standard of living.
Yeah. And those are
Those are important
really important. Yeah. Because economics
because it's about
affects people.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that.
It is easy to get lost in,
We're looking at,
yeah, all the charts and graphs.
yes, exactly.
Fuck it.
It's about people's lives.
It's about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So
Sure.
we've covered law,
Yeah.
the economy.
The economy.
I feel like I'm getting smarter already.
I hope so. All right, so, and now let's move on.
We're moving on to,
Politics.
ooh, politics.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is,
I'm a little nervous.
well, it's a fascinating section.
Oh,
It really unpacks
Okay.
everything from like different political systems,
Yeah.
different ideologies,
Right.
to like,
Yeah.
you know how elections work, international relations,
Okay.
the whole shebang.
Oh, that reminds me.
What's that?
My friend was trying to explain to me the difference between proportional representation.
And
That's a tricky one.
I couldn't remember what it's called,
I know.
but I was like,
It's a mouthful.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, I know
Uh-huh.
there's two different systems,
Yeah.
but I don't remember.
It's hard to keep them straight.
what they are.
Yeah.
Is that something
It is?
this covers?
It is.
That's
It explains it really well, too.
Okay, so basically, proportional representation.
Proportional representation is all about
Okay.
giving parties seats
Uh-huh.
based on their percentage of the vote.
Okay.
So, like, if they get
Right.
20% of the vote,
They get 20% of the seats.
they get 20% of the seats.
Okay.
Whereas first past the post is whoever gets the most votes wins, even if
it's not the majority.
it's not a majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense.
I'm glad it's clear now.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can see how
And you can see how that
could really affect the outcome of an election.
It changes everything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And it goes even further.
Oh, really?
It talks about the concept of balance of power in democracies.
Okay, so that's like
Like how different branches of government
that no one has.
kind of keep each other in check.
Too much power.
Yeah,
right?
nobody gets too powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, and it stresses the importance of an impartial judiciary.
Right, so the judges are
fair and unbiased.
fair.
Okay. It's all about making sure
Right.
the system is fair for everyone.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like they
did a good job
of taking these big concepts
I like it.
and making them digestible.
Yeah, making them make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
You feel smarter?
I do feel a little smarter
Yes.
about politics now.
That's what we want. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've gone through,
So we've done law,
we've done the
we've
economy,
done politics,
politics.
but we're not done.
Oh, there's more.
There's more.
Okay, hit me.
All right, so next, we're going into the future.
Oh, my goodness.
We're going into science and technology.
Okay.
Get ready.
All right, science and technology.
Yes.
Here we go.
This is a good one.
This is where I think
I think so, too.
Vocab Advanced 2010.pdf really shines.
It does. It's not just about defining the terms. It's about understanding how science and technology are shaping our world. And maybe even predicting where we're going next.
Ooh, I like that. A little
glimpse into the future.
glimpse into the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we even begin
Where do we begin?
with such a massive topic?
It is a big one.
It is huge. Is this where we get into all that fancy science jargon?
You might encounter some,
Okay.
but don't worry. It breaks it down really nicely.
Okay.
It starts with
Okay.
the fundamental building blocks of science.
Okay.
Cells,
Right.
atoms,
Mm-hmm.
gravity,
Gravity. Yeah.
galaxies,
Okay.
all that good stuff.
The basics.
Basics, yeah.
Okay, I think I can handle that.
I think you can.
But I have a feeling
But
it gets a little more complicated.
It does get more complex.
Okay.
Yeah, we get into things like
Hey, Derek.
genetic engineering,
Ooh. Good.
which is
Right.
manipulating the building blocks of life.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
And cloning,
Yes.
which I feel like brings up
Which brings up
a lot of ethical questions.
so many ethical questions
Yeah.
about identity and,
What does it even mean
what does it mean to be human?
to be human?
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing
It is. To think about how far
how far we've come.
we've come.
Yeah.
But I also wonder,
Makes you wonder.
are we opening Pandora's box?
Right. Are we going too far?
Yeah.
It's a valid question.
Yeah, and I think
That's why
this is why this vocabulary is so important.
vocab is so important.
Because we need to be able to
You need to be able to talk about it.
talk about it.
Yes.
Intelligently.
Exactly.
And
have these conversations
Okay.
and weigh the pros and cons.
right, like automation, for example.
Okay, automation, good one.
On one hand, it
Could be amazing.
free up our time.
Right. More
But on
physical.
the other hand, it's
But
then that happens to the workers.
exactly what happens to the jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, big questions.
Big question.
And we need the words.
We need the language.
Yeah, to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's not just about automation, though.
Okay, what else?
There's so much more in this section.
Oh, there's more.
We've got artificial intelligence,
Okay.
which is already here.
Right, it's happening.
It's happening. And
Yeah.
then there's nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology,
Right.
just
I don't even know.
it's manipulating matter
Okay.
at the atomic level.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
That sounds like,
It sounds like sci-fi, but it's
Yeah.
becoming more and more real.
wow.
And we need the words to talk about it.
Yeah, to understand it.
And understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like
Your brain needs an upgrade.
I need a brain upgrade.
Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of
Okay.
the future of the planet,
yes.
we're talking about all this cool technology, But like, what about the environment?
That's a huge question.
It is.
And this document doesn't shy away from it.
Okay.
It dives right into terms like climate change,
Right.
pollution,
Yes.
renewable energy.
The important stuff.
The big stuff, yeah.
And it's crazy to think those words are like in our everyday vocabulary now.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, which means
these issues
these are big issues.
are real.
Yeah.
They're important.
Very real.
We got to talk about them.
Yeah, and the fact that we're
talking about them.
And I think it's good that
talking about them means like we're becoming more aware.
Yeah, more aware, and we're having those conversations.
Yeah, we are.
So that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like
it does seem like
technology could be
part of the solution.
Part of the solution.
Yeah.
Right, like I see it talks about genetically modified crops, sustainable development.
Yes.
It's all connected.
It is all connected.
So it really is like
it's a reminder that
technology is a tool.
Technology is a tool.
And it's like, how are we going to use it?
How are we going to use it?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, big question.
Okay, we're going through all of this.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I feel like I've had
like a mental workout.
Yeah. It's making me think about
how
powerful language is.
Language is powerful, and having the right words.
Yeah, like if you have
can make all the difference.
The right words, you can
express yourself better.
Express yourself.
You can understand better.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm so with you on that.
It's been a journey.
It has been a journey.
And Vocab Advanced 2010.pdf.
I know, it's so much more.
It's so much more
than just a list of words.
There's just a list.
Yeah, it's like a key.
They gave us this key
to unlock
all these different
worlds
and ideas.
Yeah, from law and order to the economy
to science and technology
to the human experience. Like,
it's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
So I'm walking away from this deep dive feeling very inspired.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
On this deep dive into vocabulary.
We hope you learned a lot.
We hope you had fun.
Yes, we did too.
We did.
Yeah.
Until next time.
See you next time.
Keep those brains buzzing.
Keep learning.
And keep those words flowing.
All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that I know a lot of you have asked about. Phrasal verbs.
Yeah, these little combos can be tricky.
Oh, absolutely. But they're also the key to sounding, well, more natural, more fluent. We've got a whole bunch of resources here.
Yeah.
And we're going to break them down into everyday situations so they're easier to remember and to actually use,
It's all about making them practical.
Right. So let's kick things off with a scenario we all face, morning routines.
The daily grind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, have you ever struggled with the whole wake up versus get up thing?
Oh, for sure. They seem interchangeable.
I know, right?
There's a subtle difference.
I hit sneeze like a million times before I actually, roll out of bed.
Well, think of it this way. Wake up is simply becoming conscious.
Okay.
Get up is the action, the physical getting out of bed.
Ah, so it's like consciousness versus action.
Exactly.
That makes so much more sense. Okay, so let's say you've finally gotten up, you're going about your day. Have you ever found yourself running out of something, like coffee or time?
Oh, constantly.
I know, right? My coffee disappears in like 5 seconds.
Running out really captures that feeling of depletion.
Yeah.
But, it could be applied to more than just physical things. Think about like projects at work. You can run out of steam on a project. That initial motivation just fizzles out. Or you can run out of options when you're facing a tricky dilemma.
I like that. So it's not just, running out of actual stuff. It's like a broader sense of, nothing left.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of running out of things, I have a confession. I was once so excited to meet some friends for a movie that I completely forgot to turn off the lights at home.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my electricity bill was not happy.
We've all been there. And while we usually use turn off for lights or appliances, think about how it applies to emotions, too. You can try to turn off your anxiety.
Okay.
Or turn off those feelings of anger.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like controlling those internal switches.
So we've got a control panel of emotions.
Excited.
And sometimes, we just need to hit off.
Take charge.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the wonderful world of work and study. Emails, deadlines, those ever-growing to-do lists.
The joys.
So how do you usually catch up on work when you're, feeling behind? Sometimes I just end up staring at my computer screen, like completely overwhelmed.
I hear you. Catching up on definitely implies that feeling of being behind and trying to get back on track.
Yeah.
But what if, instead of seeing it as a burden, we saw it as a challenge, an opportunity to test our organizational skills?
I like that. A challenge, not a chore.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's say you're working on a big project and you need to make sure everything is, perfect. How important is it to look over things carefully before hitting that submit button? I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way a few times.
Oh, more times than I can count. Looking over isn't just glancing at something.
Right.
It's actively engaging with it, paying attention to the details. Actually, one time I was looking over a contract and almost missed this crucial clause buried in the fine print. It was a good reminder to be thorough.
Oh, wow. That's a close call. Sometimes I just wish I could call off all my meetings and escape the office for a bit.
I know, right?
Just take a walk, maybe grab a coffee.
But if we think about call off more broadly,
okay,
it's not just about canceling meetings. It could be any planned event, a social gathering, a business trip, even a project that's just not working out.
So it's like hitting pause, reassessing, and then deciding whether to, keep going or change direction.
Exactly. Sometimes calling off something can be the most productive thing you can do.
Okay, enough about work. Let's talk about something more fun, like social interactions and relationships. Do you have someone in your life who you just totally click with, someone you really get along with?
Oh, absolutely. And getting along with someone goes beyond just liking them, right?
Yeah.
It's about mutual respect, understanding,
I like that.
and a shared sense of humor.
It's like, a dance where both partners are in sync.
And what's fascinating is getting along with someone doesn't mean you always agree. It's about navigating those differences, finding that sweet spot where everyone feels heard and valued.
So true. Sometimes things don't work out, though, and we have to, make that tough decision to break up with someone.
Breaking up is usually associated with romantic relationships.
Right.
But it can apply to friendships, partnerships.
Yeah, for sure.
Even breaking free from negative habits.
Oh, I like that. It's like recognizing when a connection, whatever kind it is, isn't working.
Yeah.
And having the courage to change it. Hopefully, though, if there are disagreements, we can make up and reconcile.
Absolutely. Making up signifies that restoration of harmony, willingness to forgive, understand, and move forward together.
Now, have you ever been in a conversation where you needed to, steer the topic in a certain direction?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I always feel so awkward doing that.
Well, that's where bringing up something strategically can be really helpful.
Okay.
It's about subtly guiding the conversation. For example, if you're at a networking event and you want to learn more about someone's work, you could casually bring up a recent industry trend.
That's good.
Or an article you read.
Yeah.
As a way to spark a conversation.
That sounds so much smoother than just abruptly changing the subject.
A bit more graceful.
Speaking of social situations, another confession. I'm always late. Always showing up late, even when I try my best to be on time.
Oh, I feel that.
Once I was meeting friends for a concert, and I got stuck in traffic. By the time I arrived, they were already halfway through the opening act.
And showing up isn't just about physical arrival either.
Oh.
It's about making an appearance, whether it's at an event, in someone's life, even metaphorically, like when an opportunity suddenly shows up.
I never thought of it that way. So it can be both literal and figurative.
Exactly. It adds another layer of meaning.
Okay, let's talk about travel. You know that feeling of anticipation when you're about to set off on an adventure?
Oh, yeah. I love that feeling.
Whether it's a road trip, a flight across the ocean, even just exploring a new part of your city.
Yeah.
There's something so exciting about it.
Setting off really captures that sense of purpose.
Right.
That feeling of embarking on a journey.
And once you set off, chances are you'll be picking up or dropping off something along the way.
For sure, for sure.
Souvenirs, travel buddies, new experiences, who knows?
But picking up and dropping off aren't just for physical things either. Think about skills. You can pick up a new language while traveling.
That's true.
Or maybe drop off some bad habits along the way.
It's like an exchange of both tangible and intangible things.
Exactly.
And speaking of travel, navigating public transport can be its own adventure, especially figuring out when to get on or get off.
Oh, tell me about it.
I once missed my stop because I was so engrossed in a book that I completely zoned out.
I've done that too.
Getting on and getting off represent transitions, right?
Yeah, entering or exiting a particular space or situation.
It's easy to get lost in your own world and miss those important cues. Well, we've covered quite a bit in this first part of our deep dive. Everyday routines, work, social interactions, even travel.
It's amazing how these phrasal verbs pop up everywhere.
They really do. And what's cool is they make our speech sound so much more natural and informal.
It's like they add flavor to our language.
Exactly. And I think what we're seeing is that using these phrasal verbs isn't just about sounding like a native speaker. It's about understanding those subtle nuances of English.
Right.
And using them to communicate more effectively.
It's about unlocking a whole new level of fluency. And I think our deep dive has just scratched the surface. It really is amazing. How these little verbs and prepositions can add so much depth to the way we express ourselves.
Like, yeah, there are these hidden gems sprinkled everywhere in our conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't even realize it. So we've talked about how phrasal verbs show up in our daily routines, work, social stuff. But what about those unexpected situations?
Oh, yes.
Life throws a curveball.
Life is full of surprises.
Exactly. And it's amazing how phrasal verbs are perfect for describing those moments.
Yeah.
Have you ever had plans change suddenly?
Oh, all the time.
And you had to figure out a new solution, like right on the spot?
Oh, countless times.
I remember one time I was supposed to fly to a conference.
Yeah.
And my flight got canceled last minute, total chaos. I had to figure out new travel arrangements while juggling everything else. It was a mess.
Figure out is like the ultimate problem-solving phrasal verb.
It is.
It implies adaptability.
Yeah.
Thinking on your feet.
Yeah, like our inner detective comes out.
Exactly.
Okay, what about those difficult situations?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that really test your patience,
For sure.
Have you ever had to deal with something like that?
Well, dealing with something means confronting it head on.
Okay.
It's about navigating those tough situations with grace. One time I had to deal with a huge setback at work, a project that just completely fell apart. It was stressful, but it definitely taught me about perseverance.
It's like those moments force us to level up our skills.
Right.
Become more resilient,
Exactly.
Sometimes, though, when things get tough, we just want to back out. Have you ever felt that way?
Backing out could be a good move sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when you realize a situation just isn't right for you anymore. It doesn't align with your goals.
I see.
Or your values.
So it's about knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And making choices that are good for you.
I once backed out of a business partnership when I realized our visions weren't the same. It was a tough call, but it allowed me to find opportunities that were a better fit.
Sometimes you have to back out to let something better come in.
Exactly.
Now, when we're dealing with unexpected things, sometimes we need help.
For sure.
Have you ever had to reach out to someone for support?
Oh, absolutely. Reaching out is so important. It's acknowledging that we don't have to go through things alone.
Yeah.
It's about connection. I went through a personal crisis once, and I was so hesitant to reach out to my friends.
Yeah, I get it.
But when I finally did, their support was incredible.
Sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable.
It is.
But it's in those moments when we reach out that real connection happens.
I completely agree.
Okay, let's shift gears again. When things get overwhelming, how do you calm down?
Oh, that's a good question. Calming down is about finding those things that help us regulate our emotions, right? For me, it's nature. A walk in the park, listening to birds.
I love that.
Just feeling the sun.
Yeah.
It helps me reconnect with myself.
Nature has this amazing ability to soothe us, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Sometimes all it takes is a few moments of quiet to down and see things more clearly. Have you ever had to stand up for something you believe in?
Oh, absolutely. Standing up for something takes courage.
It does.
It's about advocating for what's right, even when it's hard. I once saw someone being treated unfairly, and I felt compelled to stand up for them.
That's so brave.
It wasn't easy, but it taught me about using my voice for good. And sometimes standing up for something means speaking out against injustice.
Right.
Raising awareness about important issues.
It's like, yeah, each time we speak out, we plant a seed for change.
And those seeds can grow into powerful movements.
Okay, so we've talked about phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, challenges, even standing up for what's right. But what about those moments of joy? The celebrations?
Oh, yeah, those are important too.
Phrasal verbs can add so much energy to those expressions,
They can.
Have you ever had to cheer someone up?
Of course.
Like when a friend was going through a rough time,
Yeah.
you just wanted to brighten their day.
Cheering someone up is all about spreading kindness.
Like we have this superpower to make someone's day better.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes those acts of kindness lead to unexpected connections. Have you ever run into someone you knew just by chance?
All the time. Running into someone unexpectedly can be so fun.
It can.
Like these serendipitous encounters.
It really is.
I ran into a former colleague at a coffee shop once, and we ended up talking for hours.
It's like the universe is playing matchmaker.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Have you ever had a dream or a goal that you were really hoping would work out?
Working out implies that sense of effort, the perseverance to reach a goal. I always wanted to write a book.
Wow.
And I spent years working on it, facing rejection after rejection. But I kept going, and eventually it all worked out.
That's incredible.
The book got published. It was amazing.
It shows that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
And when things finally work out, it make all the effort worth it. Spoop of things working out. Have you ever had an idea or a plan that suddenly came together perfectly?
Oh, I love that feeling. Coming together implies that sense of harmony
Yeah.
when everything just clicks. I was working on this complex project once, and we were hitting roadblocks left and right.
I've been there.
But then we started communicating better, collaborating more,
Okay.
and suddenly it all came together. We achieved our goals, and it was a real testament to teamwork.
It's like when individual efforts create something much bigger, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes that coming together goes beyond teams and projects.
It does.
It's like communities uniting for a cause.
Yeah.
Or even global movements working towards a better world.
It's a beautiful thing.
We've covered so much ground in this part of our deep dive. Phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, celebrations, making a difference. It's really incredible how these little verbs and prepositions can add so much nuance to our language.
And you know what's really exciting is that this is just a glimpse.
Yeah.
There are so many more phrasal verbs out there to explore.
Right.
It's a reminder that learning a language is a journey that never ends.
You know, it's incredible how phrasal verbs manage to sneak into every part of our lives.
They really do.
We've talked about everyday stuff, work, relationships,
Yeah.
even dealing with the unexpected.
Uh-huh.
But there's one area we haven't touched on yet, our thoughts, ideas, that whole internal world, you know?
Right. It's fascinating how phrasal verbs help us express those things.
They do. How do we even talk about those mental processes without them?
Exactly. It's like they give us a language for thinking. Think about when you're trying to think something through before making a big decision.
Oh, tell me about it. I overthink everything. I'll mull it over for days, weighing the pros and cons, imagining all the possibilities. It's exhausting, but I think it's important to, give those big decisions the time they need.
I agree. And it's interesting how you used both think something through and mull it over. They both involve deep thought. But mull it over suggests a more passive process, like letting an idea simmer in the back of your mind.
So mulling it over is like slow cooking a decision until it's perfect.
Exactly. But sometimes mulling isn't enough. Sometimes you need to actively work something out.
Right, yeah.
That implies a more focused problem-solving approach.
Okay, so it's like shifting from relaxing to okay, gotta figure this out.
Exactly. And sometimes when we're working something out, it's helpful to look back on past experiences, to see what we can learn from them.
Looking back on our past can be really insightful, can't it?
It can. It's like using our past as a guide. I often find myself looking back on my career choices, the good and the bad. And it helps me appreciate how much I've learned and grown.
It's like our past becomes this compass.
Yeah.
But we're still the ones steering the ship.
Exactly. Now, sometimes when we're trying to understand something new, we need to break it down into smaller pieces, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when it's something complicated.
Breaking something down is all about simplifying, making things easier to grasp.
Okay.
As a teacher, I do this all the time. You have to break down complex ideas for students.
Yeah.
Find ways to make them relatable.
It's like you're guiding them on this learning journey.
That's a great way to put it. And sometimes that journey involves looking at things from different perspectives.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Especially when we're stuck in our own way of thinking.
Looking at things from different angles is so important for critical thinking. It's about challenging our assumptions.
Yeah.
I had a disagreement with a colleague once, and we were both so focused on our own viewpoints.
Yeah, I've been there.
But then we tried to look at the situation from each other's perspective. We didn't have to agree.
Right.
But it helped us understand each other better.
It's amazing how just shifting our perspective can open up a whole new understanding,
It can, and that understanding can lead to coming up with new ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up with new ideas is all about creativity,
Yeah.
It's those moments when inspiration strikes. Some of my best ideas have come from unexpected places.
Really?
Like a chat with a friend or just observing nature.
I like that.
It's about staying curious and open.
Those aha moments. And sometimes those aha moments help us come into our own,
Exactly. Coming into your own means embracing your strengths.
Right.
Finding your voice.
Oh,
living authentically. I spent years trying to fit in, but then I realized I needed to embrace what makes me unique. That's when I truly came into my own.
It's a powerful message. Accepting yourself, celebrating your individuality. It makes me think about language itself,
Yeah.
It's always evolving, coming into its own, new words, new meanings.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. Well, we've explored phrasal verbs in so many different ways.
We have.
Everyday life, work, relationships, the unexpected, even our thoughts and dreams.
And it's just the beginning.
Right. It's amazing how these little verb and preposition combos can add so much depth to our language.
They really are powerful tools for communication.
They are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about the phrasal verbs you use. How do they shape the way you see the world? And how can you use them to express yourself more fully and connect with others in a meaningful way? Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ha moments coming. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Okay, so are you ready to dive into some academic interviews?
Always ready.
All right, let's do it. So we're looking at specifically master's and PhD program interviews today.
Sounds good.
And we've got this super interesting podcast script as our source material.
Okay.
And it's designed to help non-native English speakers prepare for these interviews. But honestly, like even as a native English speaker, I'm finding some really great nuggets in here.
I bet.
So
what's interesting to me is like, it's not just the language stuff that they're focusing on in here. It's like, it almost accidentally reveals like the hidden curriculum of what these interviewers are really looking for.
The unspoken expectation.
Exactly. So it's not just like, can you speak English well enough to survive in this program? It's like, do you understand academia? Like, do you understand the rules of the game?
Yeah, totally. And like one of the first things that they highlight that I thought was really interesting was just some key vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I remember when I was first starting out.
Yeah.
Those words just felt so intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
Like research proposal supervisor methodology.
That's like a whole other language.
It's a whole other language. And I think they hit the nail on the head in this script. And they're like, you have to use this language comfortably.
Yeah, you can't sound like you're reading it off a flashcard.
Right, exactly.
God, just like, it's got to roll off the tongue.
Yeah, and I think what they're saying is like, you're signaling to the interviewer.
You get it.
That you get it.
You understand the landscape.
Yeah, exactly.
You're fluent in academia.
So, then they go on to talk about some common interview questions. And like, honestly.
That's the classics.
The classics, like, tell me about yourself.
Oh my God.
Why this program? What are your research interests?
Every single time.
And I don't know about you, but when I was first starting out, I would just kind of like
regurgitate the resume.
Regurgitate my resume, like, here are the facts about me. I'm hardworking, I'm dedicated, I'm a team player, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like the script here is really pushing us to go deeper.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about just the facts. It's about like, who are you as a researcher? Who are you as a thinker? What's your story?
Yes.
What makes you tick?
And like, give me a concrete example.
Okay, so let's say they ask you. Tell me about yourself.
Okay.
Don't just say, I'm hardworking.
Right.
Tell them about that time you pulled an all-nighter. To analyze data for your undergrad thesis.
Yes.
You know?
Show them. Don't tell them.
Give them the evidence.
Okay, so another example.
Okay.
They ask you, why this program?
Right.
And I think this is one where people often fall into the trap of just saying nice things about the program.
Oh, it's a great program.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very prestigious.
It's prestigious. It's well-ranked.
I would be honored to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the deeper level?
What you got to do is you got to connect it to yourself.
Yeah.
You got to connect it to your research interests.
Okay.
So let's say there's a faculty member in that program who does research on, I don't know, 18th century feminist poetry.
Okay.
And that's what you're passionate about.
Right.
You got to mention that. You got to be like, I read Dr. So-and-so's book, and it blew my mind. I have to work with this person.
And you know what's funny is sometimes I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because I want to be authentic.
Right.
But I don't want to sound like I'm overselling it.
Like you're trying too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you...
I think the key is, you know, when something genuinely excites you, you can feel it.
Yeah.
So think about like a recent research study that you read that really got you fired up.
Yeah.
Why did it excite you? Was it the methodology? Was it the findings? What was it about that study that made you go, wow?
Okay.
And then when you're talking about your own research interests, weave that in.
Okay.
And your passion will come through naturally.
It'll be genuine.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Now,
what else we got?
There's a SAML interview conversation in this track.
Oh, yeah. Let's break that down.
Do we break it down?
Let's see what's going on.
Okay, so let's take a look. And I'm noticing that the you in this example seems to be doing a pretty good job of like highlighting their experience and
they're hitting
their interest in the program.
They're hitting the main points.
Right.
Yeah.
But where could they improve?
So one thing I notice is when they're asked about their research interests, they mention like a broad area, but they could be way more specific.
Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I'm interested in renewable energy, which is super broad.
Very broad.
They could say something like, I'm particularly fascinated by the potential of algae biofuels to revolutionize transportation.
Right.
So it's like they've
done some digging.
Yeah, they've done their homework. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they're connecting it to the press.
Yes, they're showing that they understand like the nuances of the field.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I noticed in the script is they kind of mention methodology, but they don't really
surface level.
go deep on it.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, even if you're just applying to a master's program, do you need to have like a working knowledge?
I think it's helpful because it shows that you're thinking critically about how knowledge is generated.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say you're interested in social psychology.
Okay.
You know, being able to articulate the difference between qualitative research, like in-depth interviews, versus quantitative research, like large-scale surveys.
Right.
That shows that you're not just interested in the what, you're interested in the how.
The how.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap things up,
right?
What's the biggest takeaway for our listener today?
I would say knowing the vocabulary is super important.
Yes.
But the real magic happens when you understand the deeper purpose behind each question. So it's not just about like giving the right answer. It's about understanding what are they really trying to assess?
Okay.
Are they trying to assess your critical thinking skills?
Yeah.
Are they trying to assess your ability to collaborate?
Right.
What is it that they're really getting at?
Yeah.
And once you crack that code, then you can tailor your answers to showcase those qualities.
So like a game.
It's like a
mental chess game.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, okay.
If you were interviewing someone.
Yeah.
What's that one quality that makes you instantly say yes?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's that spark of genuine intellectual curiosity.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, someone who's not just going through the motions, but is like genuinely excited to learn, to explore, to contribute to the field.
And you know what's so great about that?
Yeah.
Is you can't fake that.
You can't fake it.
Yeah.
It's got to be real.
Yeah, so listener out there.
Yes.
If you're prepping for these interviews,
do
your research.
Absolutely.
Refine your answers.
Yes.
And let the intellectual curiosity shine through.
Let it shine.
You got this.
Go get them.
All right. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
This was fun.
Yeah, I always learn so much from these.
All
right. We'll catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.
All right. Welcome back for another deep dive. And this one is really for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because today we're going to be looking at this guide called Ace Your Research Interview.
Ooh, nice.
So no matter where you are in your research journey, like whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, I think you're going to find something useful in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's got to do these interviews.
Exactly. And this guide kind of breaks it down into like 3 main sections. It talks about using advanced vocabulary, handling those really tough interview questions that always seem to come up.
Oh, I know those.
And then it actually gives you like a sample conversation, like a mock interview that you can kind of see how everything plays out in real time.
So it's like putting it all together, putting all the advice together.
Exactly.
I like that.
So I'm really excited to kind of dive into this with you today and see what we can pull out of here that's really going to help our listeners kind of really ace those interviews.
Absolutely. You know, when I was first looking at this guide, the thing that really stood out to me was this idea that, they really want you to come across as like a real researcher, not just someone who's like memorized a bunch of answers. It's about really showcasing that deep understanding of the research world.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I see that right away when I look at that section on advanced vocabulary. They use some pretty impressive terms in there like, literature review, interdisciplinary approach.
Oh, yeah. Those are some real power words.
Yeah, and I think for some of our listeners, those might sound a little intimidating. Like, wait, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So just to kind of break it down, like a literature review is basically, it's like that deep dive into all the existing research on a topic, kind of like detective work, but for science.
I would like that.
Right. And then like the interdisciplinary approach basically means you're drawing on ideas from multiple fields, not just staying in one lane. So how important is it to actually use these terms in an interview?
It's super important. Like you said, those are power words. And using them shows that you're not just, someone who's kind of dipping their toes in the water. You're like, you're a serious contender.
Yeah.
You know, think about it. Wouldn't you be more impressed if someone was like, oh, yeah, you know, my approach was informed by a thorough literature review, ... which helped me identify a gap in their research, versus just like, oh, yeah, I did some reading.
Totally. It's like showing, not just telling.
Exactly.
But I do worry about like sounding like I'm just like name dropping big words, you know?
Yeah, totally. And the guide actually talks about that.
Yeah.
That's why they say it's not about memorizing a glossary, you know?
Right.
You have to actually practice, like incorporating these terms naturally. You got to make them your own.
Gotcha. So practice makes perfect. All right. I get it.
Yeah.
But what about those tough interview questions you were talking about?
Oh, yeah. The guide calls them that.
Yeah. They get into things like challenges you've faced, handling criticism,
Ooh, yeah.
contributions to the program. And I think those are things that can be, I don't know, a little nerve-wracking to talk about.
Absolutely. And these are the types of questions that are really designed to go beyond just like the surface level.
Yeah.
You know, so let's take that challenge question, for instance.
Okay.
You know, the interviewer isn't just wanting to hear a story about, oh, like a time your experiment failed.
Right.
They're looking for something more. They want to see how you think critically, how you analyze problems, and how you adapt. You know when things don't go exactly according to plan.
So it's about showcasing your resilience, like your problem-solving skill.
Exactly. It's about showing how you learn and grow from those setbacks. And that's something that's so valuable in any research environment.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the guide also gives a sample interview conversation.
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is a little too perfect.
Yeah, it's like, can anybody actually talk like this?
I know. But I do think there's some stuff we can pull out of here. So I'm actually going to play the role of the interviewee here and read a response straight from the guide. So bear with me.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. Certainly. In my undergraduate thesis, I explored topic-using methodology. I identified a research gap in field and proposed solution. This experience strengthened my skills in skill.
Okay.
It feels a little, I don't know, textbook. Am I wrong?
You know, it's interesting because it's like, on the one hand, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, straight out of a textbook.
Yeah.
But what I really like about it is how it subtly shows initiative. You know? Like, think about it. You're not just saying, I did this task. You're saying, I identified a research gap.
Oh, yeah.
I proposed a solution. You're using these really strong action verbs to kind of highlight your accomplishments.
Yeah, that's true. It's not just saying I did this. It's like I proactively tackled this challenge and this is what I learned from it.
Exactly.
Okay. So there's definitely some good stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But obviously, like, you need to adapt this to your own experiences.
Right.
It has to sound authentically you.
Absolutely. You can't just like parrot these responses. You got to make them your own.
So I think to kind of wrap up what we've talked about today, we've talked about using that strong vocabulary, but using it naturally.
Right.
We've talked about showcasing resilience in the face of challenges and framing your experiences in a way that really demonstrates that initiative, that critical thinking.
Yes.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that preparation is key. Practice is key.
Absolutely. And as you're preparing, you know, I want you to think about this. Beyond all those technical skills we talked about, what are the personal qualities that make someone a truly great researcher?
Ooh.
And how are you going to demonstrate those in your interview?
That's such a great question to consider.
Yeah.
And remember, you know, it's your passion, your genuine curiosity, your unique perspective. Those are just as valuable as all those technical skills.
Couldn't agree more.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We wish you the very best of luck in your interviews.
Go get them.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
You know it. This time, we're taking a look at English for academic success, advanced level. And
Oh, very useful stuff.
yeah, and it seems like a lot of you out there listening are probably getting ready for some pretty big interviews.
Yeah, big interviews.
So we thought, you know, PhD programs, master's programs,
Exactly.
all that good stuff. We figured, let's give you some extra
ammunition.
ammunition.
And a vocabulary.
Yeah, to really knock them dead
Yeah,
out there.
absolutely.
So, you know, this book really dives right into some key vocabulary. Like right off the bat, it's talking about stuff like
Empirical research.
yeah, empirical research.
Conceptual framework.
And these are things, I mean, these aren't just like words to throw around.
No.
These
These
are
are important.
meat and potatoes.
These are the foundations.
Yeah, of how we talk about.
How we think.
Yeah, how we think and talk about academics. So, I mean, empirical research.
Yes.
Talking about.
Well, it's all about evidence, right?
Yeah.
It's not just theory, it's show me the data.
Yeah, it's like show me you actually went out and did the work.
Exactly. You got your hands dirty, you did the observations, the experiments.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the data to back it up.
Yep. And then, so we understand what empirical research is, and then we have this idea of a conceptual framework.
Right.
And it feels like that's almost how we look at that data.
It is. It's the lens through which you interpret all of that information.
Okay.
So you gather all this data, you need a way to make sense of it.
Right.
And the conceptual framework, that's your blueprint. It guides your whole research process.
So it's like the foundation of the house before you start building.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And, it helps you explain your findings in a clear, coherent way.
Yeah. And this book, English for Academic Success, it doesn't just stop at like definitions.
No.
It gives you
it goes a step further.
Yeah, it gives you some phrases you can use. Like right off the bat, it says,
It says, my research contributes to.
Yeah. My research contributes to blank by addressing blank.
Yes. By addressing this research gap.
Yeah, this research gap. And I think that idea of a research gap.
Oh, that's crucial.
It's like one of the hardest things for people to figure out, I think.
It is, because you have to really understand what's already out there. It's like doing a puzzle, right? You got to see all the pieces that are already in place and then figure out what's missing.
Right. What's that missing piece?
Exactly. So, for example, if everyone's researching climate change and they're all focused on melting glaciers,
right?
Maybe you look at the impact on specific bird migrations.
Right. That's interesting.
There you go. That's a potential research gap.
Yeah. And that's what's going to make your research so valuable.
Absolutely. Unique and valuable.
Yeah. Another thing that this book talks about that I think is so important, it even gives you some wording and some tips on, is how to handle, the classic question of how would you handle a disagreement with your supervisor?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Which is such a tough question.
Yeah, it can be a bit intimidating.
Because especially if you're going into a PhD program or a master's program, you're going to be working so closely.
Very closely.
For years.
And you're going to have disagreements.
You will. It's inevitable.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's where, communication skills are so important.
Yes.
Being tactful, being respectful. The source suggests acknowledging the disagreement, but in a way that's not confrontational.
Right.
Like, maybe seeking clarification, help me understand your perspective, that kind of thing, and trying to find common ground.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you're not trying to win an argument.
No, you're trying to collaborate.
You're collaborating. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're showing that you can navigate those complex academic relationships.
I remember in my first PhD interview, I was so nervous about the question, what unique perspective do you bring?
Oh, yeah.
What unique perspective do you bring to this research?
That's always a tricky one, because you're like, well, I'm just me.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean?
What do you mean unique?
Yeah.
But it's really about showcasing how your background, your experiences, even things that seem unrelated, can actually enrich the group's work.
That's so true.
So for me, I have a background in linguistics.
Okay.
Which you might think is completely separate from psychology.
Right.
But it actually helped me analyze qualitative data in a really different way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It gave me a new perspective.
Yeah, so it's almost like taking these different, parts of yourself and saying, well, I know that this part of me doesn't seem to fit, but actually it really does.
Exactly. Connect those unexpected dots.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention, this book, it talks about researching potential funding opportunities.
Yes.
Which at first I was like, whoa, hold on, really? This early on?
I know, right? It seems like a lot.
But I think it's such...
But it's brilliant.
It's so smart.
It is, because it shows that you're already thinking ahead.
Yeah.
You're proactive. You're resourceful. You're not just waiting for someone to hand you a project.
Yeah.
You're saying, I want to be a part of this. I'm ready to contribute.
Yeah, and that's so attractive to a potential advisor or a research group.
Absolutely.
You'd be like, this person's already thinking like a researcher.
They're already invested.
They're invested. Yeah. And this book wraps up. I mean, the last sample interview question it gives is all about
time management.
Time management, which, let's be honest, is crucial in any academic program.
Especially a PhD or a master's, I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're juggling so many things.
Research, teaching, classes, your own personal life.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So being able to manage your time effectively is essential.
And, the book talks about structured planning and prioritization.
Right, having a system in place.
But honestly, I think this is such a personal thing.
It is. It really is. What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Find what works for you. There's the Pomodoro technique, time blocking,
Oh, yeah. All that good stuff.
There's apps designed specifically for students.
Oh, so many resources.
Find what clicks for you and stick with it.
So there you have it. I mean, from, key vocabulary to how to answer tricky questions.
Funding opportunity.
Even time management. I mean, feeling ready to tackle those interviews.
I hope so. But, beyond all these practical tips, I want to leave you with a question.
Oh, good.
What personal qualities or experiences do you think would make you stand out? What makes you, you?
That's such a good question. Really dig deep on that one, folks.
Absolutely. That's your homework.
Yeah, that's your homework. Think about that one. And until next time, keep on diving deep.
Keep diving. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that I know a lot of you have asked about. Phrasal verbs.
Yeah, these little combos can be tricky.
Oh, absolutely. But they're also the key to sounding, more natural, more fluent. We've got a whole bunch of resources here.
Yeah.
And we're going to break them down into everyday situations so they're easier to remember and to actually use,
It's all about making them practical.
Right. So let's kick things off with a scenario we all face, morning routines.
The daily grind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, have you ever struggled with the whole wake up versus get up thing?
Oh, for sure. They seem interchangeable.
I know, right?
There's a subtle difference.
I hit sneeze like a million times before I actually, roll out of bed.
Well, think of it this way. Wake up is simply becoming conscious.
Okay.
Get up is the action, the physical getting out of bed.
So it's like consciousness versus action.
Exactly.
That makes so much more sense. Okay, so let's say you've finally gotten up, you're going about your day. Have you ever found yourself running out of something, like coffee or time?
Oh, constantly.
I know, right? My coffee disappears in like 5 seconds.
Running out really captures that feeling of depletion.
Yeah.
But, it can be applied to more than just physical things. Think about, projects at work. You can run out of steam on a project. That initial motivation just fizzles out. Or you can run out of options when you're facing a tricky dilemma.
I like that. So it's not just, running out of actual stuff. It's like a broader sense of, nothing left.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of running out of things, I have a confession. I was once so excited to meet some friends for a movie that I completely forgot to turn off the lights at home.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my electricity bill was not happy.
We've all been there. And while we usually use turn off for lights or appliances,
right,
think about how it applies to emotions, too. You can try to turn off your anxiety.
Okay.
Or turn off those feelings of anger.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like controlling those internal switches.
So we've got a control panel of emotions.
Exactly.
And sometimes, we just need to hit off.
Take charge.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the wonderful world of work and study. Emails, deadlines, those ever-growing to-do lists.
The joys.
So how do you usually catch up on work when you're, feeling behind? Sometimes I just end up staring at my computer screen, like completely overwhelmed.
I hear you. Catching up on definitely implies that feeling of being behind and trying to get back on track.
Yeah.
But what if, instead of seeing it as a burden, we saw it as a challenge, an opportunity to test our organizational skills?
I like that. A challenge, not a chore.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's say you're working on a big project and you need to make sure everything is, perfect. How important is it to look over things carefully before hitting that submit button? I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way a few times.
Oh, more times than I can count. Looking over isn't just glancing at something.
Right.
It's actively engaging with it, paying attention to the details. Actually, one time I was looking over a contract and almost missed this crucial clause buried in the fine print. It was a good reminder to be thorough.
Oh, wow. That's a close call. Sometimes I just wish I could call off all my meetings and escape the office for a bit.
I know, right?
Just take a walk, maybe grab a coffee.
But if we think about call off more broadly,
okay,
it's not just about canceling meetings. It could be any planned event. a social gathering, a business trip, even a project that's just not working out.
So it's like hitting pause, reassessing, and then deciding whether to, keep going or change direction.
Exactly. Sometimes calling off something can be the most productive thing you can do.
Okay, enough about work. Let's talk about something more fun, like social interactions and relationships. Do you have someone in your life who you just totally click with, someone you really get along with?
Oh, absolutely. And getting along with someone goes beyond just liking them, right?
Yeah.
It's about mutual respect,
I
understanding,
like that.
and a shared sense of humor.
It's like, yeah, a dance where both partners are in sync.
And what's fascinating is getting along with someone doesn't mean you always agree. It's about navigating those differences, finding that sweet spot where everyone feels heard and valued.
So true. Sometimes things don't work out, though, and we have to, make that tough decision to break up with someone.
Breaking up is usually associated with romantic relationships.
Right.
But it can apply to friendships, partnerships.
Yeah, for sure.
Even breaking free from negative habits.
Oh, I like that. It's like recognizing when a connection, whatever kind it is, isn't working.
Yeah.
And having the courage to change it. Hopefully, though, if there are disagreements, we can make up and reconcile.
Absolutely. Making up signifies that restoration of harmony, willingness to forgive, understand, and move forward together.
Now, have you ever been in a conversation where you needed to, steer the topic in a certain direction?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I always feel so awkward doing that.
Well, that's where bringing up something strategically can be really helpful.
Okay.
It's about subtly guiding the conversation. For example, if you're at a networking event and you want to learn more about someone's work, you could casually bring up a recent industry trend.
That's good.
Or an article you read.
Yeah.
As a way to spark a conversation.
That sounds so much smoother than just abruptly changing the subject.
A bit more graceful.
Speaking of social situations, another confession. I'm always late. Always showing up late, even when I try my best to be on time.
Oh, I feel that.
Once I was meeting friends for a concert, and I got stuck in traffic. By the time I arrived, they were already halfway through the opening act.
And showing up isn't just about physical arrival either.
Oh.
It's about making an appearance, whether it's at an event, in someone's life, even metaphorically, like when an opportunity suddenly shows up.
I never thought of it that way. So it can be both literal and figurative.
Exactly. It adds another layer of meaning.
Okay, let's talk about travel. You know that feeling of anticipation when you're about to set off on an adventure?
Oh, yeah. I love that feeling.
Whether it's a road trip, a flight across the ocean, even just exploring a new part of your city.
Yeah.
There's something so exciting about it.
Setting off really captures that sense of purpose.
Right.
That feeling of embarking on a journey.
And once you set off, chances are you'll be picking up or dropping off something along the way.
For sure, for sure.
Souvenirs, travel buddies, new experiences, who knows?
But picking up and dropping off aren't just for physical things either. Think about skills. You can pick up a new language while traveling.
That's true.
Or maybe drop off some bad habits along the way.
It's like an exchange of both tangible and intangible things.
Exactly.
And speaking of travel, navigating public transport can be its own adventure, especially figuring out when to get on or get off.
Oh, tell me about it.
I once missed my stop because I was so engrossed in a book that I completely zoned out.
I've done that too.
Getting on and getting off represent transitions, right?
Yeah, entering or exiting a particular space or situation.
It's easy to get lost in your own world and miss those important cues. Well, we've covered quite a bit in this first part of our deep dive. Everyday routines, work, social interactions, even travel.
It's amazing how these phrasal verbs pop up everywhere.
They really do. And what's cool is they make our speech sound so much more natural and informal.
It's like they add flavor to our language.
Exactly. And I think what we're seeing is that using these phrasal verbs isn't just about sounding like a native speaker. It's about understanding those subtle nuances of English.
Right.
And using them to communicate more effectively.
It's about unlocking a whole new level of fluency. And I think our deep dive has just scratched the surface. It really is amazing. You know, how these little verbs and prepositions can add so much depth to the way we express ourselves.
There are these hidden gems sprinkled everywhere in our conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't even realize it. So we've talked about how phrasal verbs show up in our daily routines, work, social stuff. But what about those unexpected situations?
Ah, yes.
You know, life throws a curveball.
Life is full of surprises.
Exactly. And it's amazing how phrasal verbs are perfect for describing those moments.
Yeah.
Have you ever had plans change suddenly?
Oh, All the time.
And you had to figure out a new solution, like right on the spot.
Oh, countless times.
I remember one time I was supposed to fly to a conference.
Yeah.
And my flight got canceled last minute, total chaos. I had to figure out new travel arrangements while juggling everything else. It was a mess.
Figure out is like the ultimate problem-solving phrasal verb.
It is.
It implies adaptability.
Yeah.
Thinking on your feet.
Yeah, like our inner detective comes out.
Exactly.
Okay, what about those difficult situations?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that really test your patience,
For sure.
Have you ever had to deal with something like that?
Well, dealing with something means confronting it head on.
Okay.
It's about like navigating those tough situations with grace. One time I had to deal with a huge setback at work, a project that just completely fell apart. It was stressful, but it definitely taught me about perseverance.
It's like those moments force us to level up our skills.
Right.
Become more resilient,
Exactly.
Sometimes, though, when things get tough, we just want to back out. Have you ever felt that way?
Backing out could be a good move sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when you realize a situation just isn't right for you anymore. Like it doesn't align with your goals.
I see.
Or your values.
So it's about knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And making choices that are good for you.
I once backed out of a business partnership when I realized our visions weren't the same. It was a tough call, but it allowed me to find opportunities that were a better fit.
Sometimes you have to back out to let something better come in.
Exactly.
Now, when we're dealing with unexpected things, sometimes we need help.
For sure.
Have you ever had to reach out to someone for support?
Oh, absolutely. Reaching out is so important. It's acknowledging that we don't have to go through things alone.
Yeah.
It's about connection. I went through a personal crisis once, and I was so hesitant to reach out to my friends.
Yeah, I get it.
But when I finally did, their support was incredible.
Sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable.
It is.
But it's in those moments when we reach out that real connection happens.
I completely agree.
Okay, let's shift gears again. When things get overwhelming, how do you calm down?
Oh, that's a good question. Calming down is about finding those things that help us regulate our emotions, right? For me, it's nature. A walk in the park, listening to birds.
I love that.
Just feeling the sun.
Yeah.
It helps me reconnect with myself.
Nature has this amazing ability to soothe us, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Sometimes all it takes is a few moments of quiet to down and see things more clearly. Have you ever had to stand up for something you believe in?
Oh, absolutely. Standing up for something takes courage.
It does.
It's about advocating for what's right, even when it's hard. I once saw someone being treated unfairly, and I felt compelled to stand up for them.
That's so brave.
It wasn't easy, but it taught me about using my voice for good. And sometimes standing up for something means speaking out against injustice.
Right.
Raising awareness about important issues.
It's like, yeah, each time we speak out, we plant a seed for change.
And those seeds can grow into powerful movements.
Okay, so we've talked about phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, challenges, even standing up for what's right. But what about those moments of joy? The celebrations.
Oh, yeah, those are important too.
Phrasal verbs can add so much energy to those expressions,
They can.
Have you ever had to cheer someone up?
Of course.
Like when a friend was going through a rough time,
Yeah.
you just wanted to brighten their day.
Cheering someone up is all about spreading kindness.
Like we have this superpower to make someone's day better.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes those acts of kindness lead to unexpected connections. Have you ever run into someone you knew just by chance?
All the time. Running into someone unexpectedly can be so fun.
It can.
Like these serendipitous encounters.
It really is.
I ran into a former colleague at a coffee shop once, and we ended up talking for hours.
It's like the universe is playing matchmaker.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Have you ever had a dream or a goal that you were really hoping would work out?
Working out implies that sense of effort, the perseverance to reach a goal. I always wanted to write a book.
Wow.
And I spent years working on it, facing rejection after rejection. But I kept going, and eventually it all worked out.
That's incredible.
The book got published. It was amazing.
It shows that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
And when things finally work out, it makes all the effort worth it. Spoop of things working out. Have you ever had an idea or a plan that suddenly came together perfectly?
Oh, I love that feeling. Coming together implies that sense of harmony.
Yeah.
When everything just clicks. I was working on this complex project once. And we were hitting roadblocks left and right.
I've been there.
But then we started communicating better, collaborating more.
Okay.
And suddenly it all came together. We achieved our goals, and it was a real testament to teamwork.
It's like when individual efforts create something much bigger, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes that coming together goes beyond teams and projects.
It does.
It's like communities uniting for a cause.
Yeah.
Or even global movements working towards a better world.
It's a beautiful thing.
We've covered so much ground in this part of our deep dive. Phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, celebrations, making a difference. It's really incredible how these little verbs and prepositions can add so much nuance to our language.
And you know what's really exciting is that this is just a glimpse.
Yeah.
There are so many more phrasal verbs out there to explore.
Right.
It's a reminder that learning a language is a journey that never ends.
You know, it's incredible how phrasal verbs manage to sneak into every part of our lives.
They really do.
We've talked about everyday stuff, work, relationships,
Yeah.
even dealing with the unexpected. But there's one area we haven't touched on yet, our thoughts, ideas, that whole internal world, you know?
Right. It's fascinating how phrasal verbs help us express those things.
They do. How do we even talk about those mental processes without them?
Exactly. It's like they give us a language for thinking. Think about when you're trying to think something through before making a big decision.
Oh, tell me about it. I overthink everything. I'll mull it over for days, weighing the pros and cons, imagining all the possibilities. It's exhausting, but I think it's important to, give those big decisions the time they need.
I agree. And it's interesting how you used both think something through and mull it over. They both involve deep thought. But mull it over suggests a more passive process, like letting an idea simmer in the back of your mind.
So mulling it over is like slow cooking a decision until it's perfect.
Exactly. But sometimes mulling isn't enough. Sometimes you need to actively work something out.
Right, yeah.
That implies a more focused problem-solving approach.
Okay, so it's like shifting from relaxing to okay, gotta figure this out.
Exactly. And sometimes when we're working something out, it's helpful to look back on past experiences, to see what we can learn from them.
Looking back on our past can be really insightful, can't it?
It can. It's like using our past as a guide. I often find myself looking back on my career choices, the good and the bad. And it helps me appreciate how much I've learned and grown.
It's like our past becomes this compass.
Yeah.
But we're still the ones steering the ship.
Exactly. Now, sometimes when we're trying to understand something new, we need to break it down into smaller pieces, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when it's something complicated.
Breaking something down is all about simplifying, making things easier to grasp.
Okay.
As a teacher, I do this all the time. You have to break down complex ideas for students.
Yeah.
Find ways to make them relatable.
It's like you're guiding them on this learning journey.
That's a great way to put it. And sometimes that journey involves looking at things from different perspectives.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Especially when we're stuck in our own way of thinking.
Looking at things from different angles is so important for critical thinking. It's about challenging our assumptions.
Yeah.
I had a disagreement with a colleague once, and we were both so focused on our own viewpoints.
Yeah, I've been there.
But then we tried to look at the situation from each other's perspective. We didn't have to agree.
Right.
But it helped us understand each other better.
It's amazing how just shifting our perspective can open up a whole new understanding,
It can, and that understanding can lead to coming up with new ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up with new ideas is all about creativity,
Yeah.
It's those moments when inspiration strikes. Some of my best ideas have come from unexpected places.
Really?
Like a chat with a friend or just observing nature.
I like that.
It's about staying curious and open.
Those aha moments. And sometimes those aha moments help us come into our own,
Exactly. Coming into your own means embracing your strengths.
Right.
Finding your voice.
Oh,
living authentically. I spent years trying to fit in, but then I realized I needed to embrace what makes me unique. That's when I truly came into my own.
It's a powerful message. Accepting yourself, celebrating your individuality. It makes me think about language itself,
Yeah.
It's always evolving, coming into its own. New words, new meanings.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. Well, we've explored phrasal verbs in so many different ways.
We have.
Everyday life, work, relationships, the unexpected, even our thoughts and dreams.
And it's just the beginning.
Right. It's amazing how these little verb and preposition combos can add so much depth to our language.
They really are powerful tools for communication.
They are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about the phrasal verbs you use. How do they shape the way you see the world? And how can you use them to express yourself more fully and connect with others in a meaningful way? Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ha moments coming. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. All right, so, sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a bit of a vocabulary rut, using the same words day after day.
I know what you mean.
But I was looking at this guide to 20 advanced words, the kind that can really make you sound smarter in everyday conversations.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be fun to kind of deep dive into some of these words.
I think that's a great idea. It's not just about sounding smart, though, right?
Right.
It's more about expressing yourself with more precision and nuance. And honestly, even understanding how other people are using language to kind of persuade you or inform you.
Right. Yeah. It's like you can be more persuasive and also not be persuaded by other people.
Exactly.
So we're not aiming to turn everyone into Shakespeare here.
No.
But I bet you'd be surprised how many of these words you've already encountered without realizing, how much they can elevate your communication.
Absolutely. And that's actually what's so interesting about this particular set of words. They're not pulled from some obscure academic journal or something like that.
Right.
They're words that appear in everyday conversations, articles, books, you name it.
Yeah.
So knowing them inside and out, that really makes you a better speaker.
Yeah.
But it also makes you a more critical listener at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like having a secret decoder ring for the English language.
I like that.
Yeah. So let's unlock some of these words.
Okay.
What's our first one?
Well, we'll start with intriguing. Now, on the surface, it just means very interesting.
Yeah.
But think about the difference between saying, that movie sounds interesting.
Right.
Versus, that movie sounds intriguing.
Ooh, yeah. Intriguing definitely has more weight to it.
Right.
It's like you're saying that movie has hooked your curiosity and you need to know more.
Precisely. It suggests a much deeper level of engagement. You're not just passively interested. You're actively drawn in.
It's almost like intriguing implies there's a mystery to unravel.
Yeah, there's something more to it.
Yeah, okay, what's next on our list?
Let's go with diligent, meaning showing care and perseverance in your work. Now, you could easily just say someone is hardworking, but diligent, that carries a different connotation, doesn't it?
It does. Hardworking just sounds like putting in the hours. But diligent, like you said, it makes me think of someone who's truly dedicated to their work.
Exactly.
Who really takes pride in what they're doing.
And that distinction can make all the difference, especially in like a professional setting.
Oh, totally.
Imagine you're describing a colleague to your boss, right? Diligent paints a much more impressive picture.
Right. It subtly implies that they go above and beyond just the bare minimum.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm already feeling my vocabulary muscles getting stronger. What's word number 3?
Let's tackle one we all know too well. Tedious.
Yes.
Meaning, of course, boring and repetitive, something that just seems to drag on forever.
Yeah. Tedious is the perfect word for that stack of paperwork on my desk.
Oh, I know.
Or that meeting that could have been an email.
Exactly. But the reason this word is so useful is that it allows you to express that feeling of boredom.
Right.
In a more sophisticated way.
So instead of just groaning that something's boring, using tedious actually makes you sound more articulate.
Precisely.
Right.
And it also allows you to be more specific about, what kind of boredom you're experiencing.
Okay.
Tedious implies a sense of monotony, of having to do something repetitive and unchallenging.
That's a good point. It's like saying, this is boring and it's making me feel drained because it's just so mindless.
Right. And by using that kind of nuanced language, you're really signaling to others that you're thoughtful and attentive to detail, even when you're describing something, negative.
Okay, I can definitely see how that could come in handy. Let's keep going.
Okay.
What's our next word?
This one's a big one, and we hear it used a lot, especially these days. Unprecedented. It means, quite simply, never done or known before.
This is definitely a word that carries a lot of weight, especially in the news.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like every other day there's some unprecedented event happening.
I know, right? But that's why it's so important to understand its true meaning.
Okay.
Unprecedented isn't just about something being new or different. It's about something being truly groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Something that breaks the mold.
So it's not just about a change, it's about a truly significant shift.
Exactly.
That's never, ever been seen before.
It's about recognizing those moments in history or in science or culture.
Yeah.
That just completely change the game.
And by using unprecedented correctly, we can avoid kind of diluting its power and make sure that it's used only when it's truly warranted.
Absolutely. It's about using language with precision and impact.
Okay. That's 4 words down, 16 to go.
Wow, we're making progress.
I know, I'm feeling more confident already.
That's great to hear.
What's up next?
Let's aim for completeness with comprehensive.
Okay.
This word signals that something is complete, thorough, including all the necessary details.
So instead of just, asking for a report, I could ask for a comprehensive report.
Yes.
Meaning I want all the data, all the analysis, no stone unturned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And imagine, like, you're reading a review of some new gadget, right? A comprehensive review that would cover all its features, the pros and cons, comparisons to other similar products, and so on.
It's like saying, give me the full picture, leave nothing out.
Precisely. Comprehensive just implies a level of depth.
Yeah.
And thoroughness that goes, beyond the surface.
I can see this word being useful in all sorts of situations.
Oh, yeah.
Work, research, even just planning a trip.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's word number 6?
Let's get a little more nuanced here.
Okay.
With subtle.
Okay.
This word describes something that's not obvious, delicate, or understated.
Ooh, subtle is a good one. It's like noticing those little details that most people might miss.
Yeah.
Like a subtle hint of spice in a dish, or a subtle change in someone's mood.
Exactly. And this word is all about being perceptive, about paying attention to the fine details.
Yeah.
It suggests a level of awareness and understanding that goes beyond the superficial.
I love that. It's like saying, I see what you did there, but in a much more sophisticated way.
Exactly. Subtle implies a deeper level of observation.
Yeah.
And insight.
This is great. We're already starting to unpack some really interesting words here.
I know, this is fun.
What's up next?
This one might hit a little close to home for us. Jargon. It refers to the specialized language used by a particular group or profession.
Oh, yeah. I think we're all guilty of using jargon sometimes. It's so easy to fall into that trap.
I know.
Especially when you're talking to people in your own field.
But being aware of jargon and knowing when to avoid it, that is crucial for effective communication.
Yeah.
Think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation where you felt completely lost?
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone was just using all these technical terms that you just didn't understand.
Absolutely. It's like they're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel so excluded.
Yes.
Or even intimidated,
Exactly. So while jargon can be useful, within a specific group, it's important to remember that clear, simple language, that's usually the best way to communicate with a wider audience.
Right. It's about making sure that everyone is on the same page, regardless of their background or expertise. Okay, what's word number 8 on our list?
Let's talk about ambitious.
Okay.
A word that often gets thrown around. But do we really understand its full meaning? It's more than just wanting to succeed.
Yeah.
It's about having this strong desire to achieve something truly significant.
So it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about setting goals that are truly challenging and meaningful.
Exactly. Think about it. You could say that someone's ambitious because they want to be a CEO, right?
Right.
But you could also say that a scientific research project is ambitious because it aims to solve some major global problem.
So ambitious can apply to individuals and their goals, but also to projects, ideas, even entire organizations.
Absolutely. It's about setting the bar high and striving for something that pushes the boundaries.
I like that. It's about aiming for excellence, for making a real impact.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep this vocabulary train rolling. What's word number 9?
This one's crucial in our increasingly interconnected world. Empathy.
Okay.
The ability to understand and share the feelings of others.
Empathy is more than just sympathy, right? It's about truly putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique experiences and perspectives and being able to connect with them on like an emotional level.
I can see how empathy is essential in so many areas of life, from personal relationships to professional settings to even just navigating society as a whole.
Absolutely. It allows us to build stronger relationships, resolve conflicts more effectively, and just create a more compassionate and understanding world.
All right, we're almost through our first 10 words.
I know. Can you believe it?
What's the last one we'll tackle in this section?
Let's finish with reluctant.
Okay.
It describes someone who's unwilling or hesitant to do something.
I feel like I use this word all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm reluctant to try that new restaurant because I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah, exactly. Or he was reluctant to share his ideas because he was afraid of being criticized.
It's about expressing a sense of hesitation or reservation without being outright, negative or dismissive.
Right. And sometimes that hesitation, it's warranted.
Totally.
Reluctant can signal that you need more information or convincing before you're ready to fully commit.
Okay, so we've covered 10 fantastic words already.
I know, it's amazing.
I can already feel my communication skills leveling up.
Me too.
But this is just the beginning, right?
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
We've got 10 more words to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started. Welcome back. I hope you've got your mental dictionaries ready.
Yeah.
Because we're about to unlock 10 more powerful words.
Okay.
That can add some serious punch to your vocabulary.
I'm ready to expand my linguistic horizons even further.
Excellent.
What's the first word we're tackling in this round?
Let's start with elaborate, which means to explain something in greater detail.
Okay.
Think of it as going beyond the surface level, really fleshing out your thoughts.
I can see how elaborate would be useful in so many situations. Like if someone gives a presentation with a really interesting idea, you could say, "That sounds fascinating. Can you elaborate on that point?"
Exactly. It's a great way to encourage deeper discussion and get to the heart of a matter. You're signaling that you're not just passively listening,
right,
but you're actively seeking a more comprehensive understanding.
It's like saying, "Tell me more, I'm all ears."
I love it.
Okay, what's next on our list of vocabulary power-ups?
Let's embrace a little bit of the unexpected with spontaneous.
Okay.
This word describes something done without planning.
Right.
Something impulsive and in the moment.
Ooh, I love a good dose of spontaneity. It's like throwing caution to the wind and just going with the flow.
And sometimes, those spontaneous decisions, those lead to the most memorable experiences.
For sure.
Think about it. Have you ever just taken a spontaneous road trip?
Oh, yeah.
Or decided on a whim to try a new restaurant?
Yes. And those are often the stories I end up telling over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like spontaneity injects a little bit of magic into life.
I completely agree. It keeps things interesting. It allows us to break free from our routines.
Okay, I'm feeling energized by that word. What's next on our list?
Let's come back down to earth a little bit.
Okay.
With mundane, which describes something ordinary, routine.
Yeah.
Or even a bit boring.
Yeah. I think we all experience those moments of mundanity in our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the everyday stuff that we just have to get through.
But here's the interesting thing about mundane. It's all about perspective. What one person finds mundane, another person might actually find comforting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or even enjoyable.
That's a good point. Like, I find folding laundry to be incredibly mundane, but my partner actually finds it really relaxing.
Exactly. So while mundane, might have these kind of negative connotations, it's important to remember that it's subjective.
Yeah.
What matters is how we choose to approach those everyday tasks.
Right.
And find meaning in them.
Okay, I like that reframing of mundane. It's a reminder to find the silver lining, even in those, most ordinary moments. What's our next word?
Let's get real with candid.
Okay.
Which means open, honest, and straightforward.
Candid. I appreciate people who are candid. Even when it's not always easy to hear, it shows a level of authenticity and respect,
And that candid communication, that is crucial for building trust. And strong relationships.
Totally.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Would you rather someone sugarcoat their feedback or just be upfront and honest with you?
Oh, definitely upfront and honest.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable in the moment.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's so much more helpful.
Yeah.
And productive.
Exactly. Candid allows for real conversations to happen.
Yeah.
And we can learn and grow from each other's perspectives.
Okay. I'm ready for our next word. What have you got?
Let's find some relief.
Okay.
With alleviate, which means to reduce or relieve pain, difficulty, or stress.
Ooh, alleviate feels like a very soothing word. Like taking a deep breath and feeling the tension just melt away.
I love that. Think about it in different contexts. Like, a doctor might prescribe medication to alleviate a patient's pain. A government might implement policies to alleviate poverty.
Right.
Or even on a personal level, you could say, listening to music helps me alleviate stress.
Exactly. Alleviate can be applied to such a wide range of situations.
Oh, yeah.
From physical discomfort to emotional distress to societal problems. It's about taking action to make things better.
Yes. to ease burdens.
Okay, we're over halfway through our second set of words.
I know, this is going by fast.
What's next on our vocabulary adventure?
Let's talk about versatile, which describes something or someone who's adaptable, able to be used or function in many different ways.
Oh, versatile is a great word to have in your arsenal, especially in today's world where adaptability is so highly valued.
Absolutely. Think about, like a chef who can cook any cuisine, or like a tool that can be used for multiple tasks. That's versatility in action.
It's about being resourceful, adaptable, being able to pivot and thrive in different situations.
And in a world that's constantly changing, versatile individuals and organizations, they have a distinct advantage. They can navigate challenges and seize opportunities with, greater ease.
Okay, I'm making a note to add versatile to my resume. What's up next?
Let's acknowledge those moments of unplanned action.
Okay.
With impulsive, meaning acting without thinking about the consequences.
Oh, impulsive. That can be both exciting and a little bit dangerous.
That's right.
Sometimes those spur-of-the-moment decisions lead to these amazing adventures, and other times, not so much.
It's true. Impulsivity can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can lead to spontaneity, excitement, but it can also lead to regret if we're not careful.
I think it's about finding that balance between being open to new experiences and making sure we're not acting recklessly.
Exactly. And sometimes a little bit of planning can go a long way in preventing those impulsive decisions from backfiring.
Okay, I'm ready for our next word. What have we got?
Let's vent a little.
Okay.
With frustrating.
Okay.
Which describes something that causes annoyance or disappointment.
Oh, frustrating. We've all been there.
Oh, yes.
Those moments when things just don't go our way.
Yeah.
Or we encounter obstacles that seem impossible to overcome.
But here's the thing about frustration. It can actually be a powerful motivator.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it. When you're frustrated by a problem, you're more likely to put in the effort to solve it.
That's a good point. It's like frustration can fuel our creativity and our problem-solving skills.
Exactly. So next time you're feeling frustrated, try to channel that energy into finding a solution. Into overcoming the challenge.
Okay, we're down to our last two words in this set.
I know, I can't believe it.
What's up next?
Get ready to be captivated by compelling, which describes something that evokes interest, attention, or admiration.
I love the word compelling. It's like a magnet,
Yeah.
It draws you in and makes you want to learn more.
Think about a book that you just couldn't put down.
Oh, yeah.
Or like a speech that left you feeling so inspired. Those are examples of compelling content.
It's about creating something that truly resonates with people.
Yeah.
That leaves a lasting impact.
And it's not just limited to words, like a compelling piece of art, a compelling performance, even a compelling personality. All of those can have that same magnetic effect.
Okay, on to our final word for this segment.
All right, let's do it.
What do we got?
Let's conclude with the power of resilience.
Okay.
With resilient, meaning able to recover quickly from difficulties or setbacks. It's about bouncing back from challenges.
Yeah.
Stronger than before.
Resilient is such an important quality to have, especially in today's world, where we're constantly facing uncertainty and change.
Absolutely. Think about it. Resilient people, they don't let setbacks define them.
Right.
They learn from their mistakes. They adapt to new situations.
Yeah.
And they just keep moving forward.
It's about having that inner strength and determination to overcome obstacles and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
Even stronger than before.
Exactly. Resilience is about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
And using them to fuel, our personal development.
Okay, we've explored another 10 amazing words. I'm feeling so empowered by this expanded vocabulary. But before we move on, I'm curious. Which word from this set really resonated with you?
It's hard to choose just one. So many of them feel so relevant to everyday life. But I think resilient, that one's really sticking with me.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's such a powerful reminder that we can bounce back from challenges,
It is. And it ties in nicely with something we've been highlighting throughout this whole deep dive, right?
Learning and using these words. It isn't just about, sounding smarter.
Right.
It's about equipping yourself to navigate the world more effectively.
It's like we're giving our listeners a toolbox.
Yeah.
Filled with these linguistic power tools.
I like that analogy. And just like any good toolbox, it's important to keep adding new tools, right?
Right.
as you encounter new challenges and situations.
So this deep dive, it's really just the beginning, right?
It is.
It's about sparking curiosity and encouraging our listeners to keep exploring, this vast and fascinating world of language.
A lifelong journey.
So where can our listeners go from here? What are some, practical tips for expanding their vocabularies even further?
Well, there are so many great resources available these days. You could start a word of the day ritual, subscribe to those online dictionaries or like etymology blogs.
Oh, yeah.
Or even just make a conscious effort to pay attention to the language used in your favorite books, podcasts, movies.
I love that idea of making it a daily habit.
Yeah.
It's like a mini workout for your brain,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Flexing those linguistic muscles.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to use those new words in your own conversations, right?
Right.
The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
That's such an important point. It's not enough to just memorize the definitions.
Right.
We need to actually put these words into practice,
Yeah.
to really make them our own.
Think of it this way. Every new word you learn, it's like adding a new color to your palette. It gives you more options for expressing yourself with nuance and precision.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
What's one word you learned today that you're going to commit to using in a conversation this week?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I would add to that, how will using that word change the way you communicate? The way you're perceived?
Yeah.
Or even the way you think?
That's a great question to ponder. Remember, the power of language is immense. It shapes our thoughts, influences our actions, and connects us to each other.
It really does.
So go forth, listeners, and wield those words with confidence and intention.
I love it.
That's it for our deep dive into 20 advanced words you can use every day.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy wordsmithing.
When you hear certain words, don't they just kind of bring that holiday feeling to life? We're going to dive into some Christmas vocabulary today.
Yeah.
But we're going deeper than just, dictionary definitions.
Right.
We're really trying to see how these words reflect like culture and tradition.
Absolutely. I think that language is such a good window into how people experience the world.
Yeah.
And that's definitely true for holidays like Christmas, for sure.
Okay, so we've got 19 of these most useful Christmas words to unpack.
Okay.
From the source material you sent over. And some are pretty familiar, like festive and carol.
Right.
But I have a feeling that even those have kind of some hidden depths.
Oh, for sure. You'd be surprised at how much history and nuance is packed into those everyday words.
Yeah.
For example, festive isn't limited to just Christmas.
Right.
It speaks to a much broader human need for celebration and ritual.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've always associated carols with religious celebrations mostly, but I can see how they've evolved into something more than that over time.
Oh, absolutely. Carols have their roots in ancient traditions, and they served as a form of storytelling and even social commentary back then.
Wow. And some carols still use that beautiful old word Yuletide, right?
Yeah.
Seems like we're bringing back some of those older terms.
There's definitely a renewed appreciation for the language of tradition.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me, we've got tinsel, bauble, and ornament on our list.
Oh, yeah.
These words bring up a lot of sensory memories, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially tinsel. Who hasn't spent like an hour untangling that stuff?
Yay.
Oh, my goodness. And speaking of decorations, did you know there's actually a difference between bauble and ornament?
That's right. Bauble is more common in British English, while ornament is the more general term.
Okay.
And the source actually gives us the example. The tree looks beautiful with all the ornaments.
Yeah. The source also mentions gift exchange.
Yeah.
The way we exchange gifts really shapes the whole Christmas experience, doesn't it? Whether it's a big family gathering or just a quiet exchange of small tokens of appreciation.
Yeah. It's fascinating how gift-giving traditions vary across cultures.
Yeah.
And even within families. The word exchange itself implies a kind of reciprocity, but that can take so many different forms.
Right. There are some real cultural gems on this list.
Yeah.
Like mulled wine.
Yeah.
Now that's a word that instantly warms me up.
Right.
Have you ever tried a Christmas cracker, though?
The Christmas cracker. It's a fun British tradition where you pull apart a paper tube with another person. It makes a little pop. And inside you find a small gift, a paper crown.
Wow.
And often a joke or a riddle.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
The source says, we pulled crackers before starting our Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try that tradition sometime.
I think you'd enjoy it. Speaking of traditions, we can't forget the words that represent like the heart of Christmas, nativity and reindeer.
Those really capture the two sides of Christmas, don't they? The religious story and the more whimsical, fantastical elements.
Yeah.
Like Santa Claus and flying reindeer and all that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing how those two words, nativity and reindeer, can evoke such different images and emotions, right?
Yeah.
The nativity scene with its quiet reverence.
Right.
And then reindeer representing the magic and excitement of like Christmas Eve.
Right. And speaking of reindeer, I can't help but think of Rudolph.
Oh, of course.
You know, Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
Right.
Our source even points it out. Rudolph is the most famous reindeer of all.
Of course, he's become a cultural icon in his own right.
He has.
Symbolizing acceptance and the idea that what makes you different can also make you extraordinary.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That ties in nicely with the word holly, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's not just a decoration. It's a symbol of hope and resilience in the middle of winter.
That's a great observation. Holly has been associated with Christmas for centuries.
Really?
And the source provides a lovely example of its use. We decorated the table with holly and candles.
Oh.
It really adds a festive touch, doesn't it?
It does. It's interesting how certain plants become so intertwined with specific times of year.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, language really does reflect our relationship with the natural world.
Absolutely. We also have sleigh on our list,
Oh, yeah.
which evokes a very specific image of winter travel, especially when you consider the source's mention of a horse-drawn sleigh.
It's a classic image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The horse-drawn sleigh, the snow falling softly.
Yeah.
It's like a scene from a Christmas card.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the word frosty,
Yeah.
which is so evocative of that crisp winter air.
Frosty really captures that sensory experience of Christmas.
Yeah.
The source paints a perfect picture with its example. The frosty morning was perfect for building a snowman.
And who doesn't love a good snowman? Though I have to admit, my favorite winter activity might involve an advent calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Those little doors hiding daily treats.
Yeah.
It's all about the anticipation.
Right.
What are some unique advent calendar traditions you've come across?
When I was younger, my family had a handmade advent calendar with tiny pockets.
Oh, wow.
And each day held a little note or a small treat. It wasn't about the grandeur of the gifts,
Yeah.
but the small moments of joy leading up to Christmas.
That's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that the essence of the holidays isn't always about material things,
Right.
It's about those shared experiences and traditions.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to something we touched on earlier, how language shapes our understanding of Christmas.
We've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?
Right.
But exploring these 19 words has shown us how vocabulary can be a powerful tool for understanding tradition, history,
Yeah.
and even the different ways people experience the holidays.
It's like each word is a little window into the vast and varied world of Christmas traditions.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to open one more window. Remember how we talked about adding like one word to this list?
Yeah.
A word that really captures the essence of Christmas for you?
Yeah, that's the real heart of this whole deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about learning new words. It's about reflecting on what those words mean to us personally.
Exactly. And thinking about that one word, that personal touchstone for the holidays,
Right.
it can really spark some interesting conversations.
Yeah.
What word comes to mind for you?
For me, it might be generosity.
Oh,
It's about that spirit of giving.
Yeah.
Not just material gifts, but also our time, kindness, and compassion.
that's a beautiful choice. And it really does remind me of something we've kind of seen throughout this whole exploration of Christmas vocabulary,
Yeah.
how these words connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. Whether it's the sense of community evoked by Carol
Yeah.
or the historical depth of Yuletide,
Right.
these words carry echoes of shared experiences and traditions.
And even a simple word like frosty can transport us back to childhood memories
Right.
of snowy days and winter wonder.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I encourage you to hold on to that word you chose, that word that encapsulates the spirit of Christmas for you.
Yeah.
Let it guide you through this season and maybe even share it with someone else.
Yeah, I like that. Because sometimes the most meaningful conversations
Right.
start with a single word from both of us.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Hey, everyone. Super stoked to have you all here as we kind of like really jump into this topic. I know you're all obsessed with, mastering English.
It's a pretty big deal, right?
Totally. So we're going to be dissecting this awesome guide called, A Comprehensive 1-Hour Guide. And not just like summarizing it,
Oh, wait.
but pulling out the gems, those like super motivating nuggets to keep you going on your English journey.
And this guide, I gotta say, it's not your typical, like, learn English in 5 minutes kind of thing.
Ugh, those drive me crazy.
Yeah. It goes deeper, looks at the psychology, like why we struggle, how to rewire our thinking,
Totally. And we'll uncover some surprising things too.
You bet.
Like, did you know even native speakers mess up sometimes?
Yeah.
And like watching Friends can be educational. Who knew?
Right. It's about finding what works for you, and this guide's like this toolbox of different approaches, so.
I'm excited to dig in. But first, like the big WHY, right? Want to put in the effort.
The guide starts with this idea of open doors to opportunities, and they use this travel example. Imagine you're like in a bustling market in, I don't know, Morocco or something.
Oh, I love Morocco.
Right. And you can haggle prices, ask for directions, actually connect with people, not just gestures,
That's the dream. But it's bigger than just travel, right?
Way bigger. Think global communication, business, ideas. English is like the key to this whole network.
So it's becoming a citizen of the world, kind of. Love that. The guide also talks about building confidence. We know learning anything new does that. But why is it special with language?
Well, language is how we express ourselves, connect. It's part of our identity, right? So the more you practice English, the more confident you become, not just in the language, but in yourself, navigating the world.
It's like that moment when you realize you understand a whole conversation without translating in your head. Bam.
Total mind-blown moment. And speaking of unlocking things, there's this point about cultural connection that really hit me.
We do. It's huge. Imagine enjoying movies, books, music, all that without the language barrier. Like,
you get it, right? It's like gaining access to this whole new world of art and entertainment, that feeling when you get a joke in your favorite show without subtitles. Magic.
Pure magic. But let's be real. It's not all sunshine and roses. There are bumps in the road.
Definitely.
And the guide dives into those common obstacles. And one that probably hits everyone is, lack of time.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. Between work, life, just existing, finding time to practice feels impossible.
And that's where the guide gets really interesting. It debunks this myth that you need hours each day, like some kind of language hermit.
No thanks.
Yeah, they emphasize consistency over intensity. Even 15, 20 minutes consistently can make a huge difference. It's about using those little pockets of time we all have.
That is so reassuring. Because I think a lot of people get scared off thinking they got to like quit their job to learn English.
Exactly.
The other big one, and this one I'll admit gets to me, is fear of mistakes.
Oh yeah, that can be paralyzing.
It is. Like, I freeze up thinking about making a mistake. So what does the guide say about that?
Well, it's all about a mindset shift. Mistakes aren't failures. They're like stepping stones, proof you're learning,
I love that. Takes the pressure off, because honestly, who's perfect?
Nobody. The guide uses this analogy of learning to ride a bike. You're going to wobble, maybe fall, but each time you get back on, you're getting better.
Yeah.
Language is similar. Every mistake means you're pushing your boundaries. That's where the magic happens.
Okay, feeling pumped already. We've got the why, busted some myths. Now for the fun part, those game-changing techniques to make learning not just bearable, but enjoyable. What's the guide got for us?
Buckle up, because it's about to get interesting. So the guide jumps into these practical tips to stay motivated. And, it all starts with something that seems obvious, but we often miss it. Setting clear goals.
Ugh, goals. Isn't that like generic self-help stuff? I feel like I hear that everywhere.
Yeah.
I hear ya, but the guide gets specific. It's not just learn English. It's about how to set goals for language learning, using frameworks that work.
Frameworks. Okay, now I'm curious. Give me the deets.
So they talk about short-term and long-term goals, which makes sense, but it goes deeper, like using the SMART goal method.
SMART goals, I've heard of those, but how's that language specific?
Instead of like become fluent, which is super vague, a SMART goal could be learn 10 business English words every day for a month and use them in practice conversations twice a week.
Whoa, that's way more concrete. I can actually picture that. It's like actionable.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us motivated, seeing those small wins,
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes sense. The guide also talks about making learning fun, which we touched on earlier with that whole cultural connection thing.
Right. Because if it feels like a chore, you're going to quit.
100%. So how do we tap into that enjoyment factor, make it feel less like study and more like, I don't know, playtime?
Well, they suggest using your passions, Instead of forcing yourself to read boring textbooks, immerse yourself in English content you actually enjoy.
So like Guilt-free Netflix binging. Sign me up.
Exactly. Think about your favorite shows, movies, music, YouTube, all that can be learning, sneaky learning, but it works.
Love it. But what about if I'm not quite ready to watch a whole movie in English without subtitles? Baby steps, right?
Totally. They got you covered. Start with something familiar, a show you've already seen in your native language, put on the English subtitles, and boom.
You're learning without realizing it.
Right. Because you already know the story, you can focus on the language itself.
That's so smart. And as you get better, ditch the subtitles. Just enjoy the show.
And don't forget music and podcasts. Great for training your ear, picking up slang, the real life stuff.
Which, hey, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
See, you're already learning just by listening.
Exactly. But we can take it up a notch. Remember that active listening thing. It's not just about letting the sounds wash over you.
Yeah, it's like engaging with it, right? What were those specific techniques again?
So taking notes while listening, jot down new words, phrases, or summarize what you've heard in your own words. It's like a mental workout.
Brain gains. Love it. But let's be real. Life's busy. How do we actually fit in consistent practice? I feel like I'm always saying, I'll do it tomorrow.
That's where micro-learning comes in. The guide is all about it. Instead of needing huge chunks of time, it's about using those little moments we all have.
Micro-learning. Gimme those mini hacks.
Okay, so imagine instead of scrolling social media on your commute, you listen to an English podcast. Or while you're waiting in line, you review flashcards on your phone.
It's like sneaking in learning without even trying.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with those little bits of time we usually waste.
Mind blown. And speaking of things that are everywhere these days, what about those language learning apps? Are they legit or just fancy games?
They can be super helpful, especially for building vocabulary and grammar. Plus, that gamified element keeps things fun, right?
But how do we avoid just clicking through mindlessly, not really absorbing anything?
It's all about being strategic. Don't treat them as a quick fix. Use them to reinforce what you're learning elsewhere, like from reading or conversations.
So it's finding that balance between structured learning and just immersing yourself in English, right?
Bingo. And speaking of immersion, the guide gets pretty wild with it, suggesting ways to make English a part of your daily life without even thinking about it.
Ooh, tell me more.
One of the simplest but most effective. Change your phone and computer settings to English. Boom, you're navigating menus, reading notifications, all in English.
Sneaky. It's like tricking your brain into thinking in English.
Totally. They also suggest going beyond just watching and listening, get involved in online communities, follow English-speaking influencers, real-life exposure.
So it's like a holistic immersion, bringing English into your digital world.
Exactly. But what about those who are ready to level up, go beyond the basics, really refine those skills? The guide has some advanced tricks up its sleeve. Yeah, for those ready to really dive in, the guide has this section called Advanced Techniques for Improvement. And it all starts with, oh boy, the one that makes most people nervous? Speaking?
Ugh, yeah, tell me about it. I used to get full-on panic attacks thinking about speaking English.
It's a big hurdle for sure, but the guy, it kind of reframes it. It's not about being perfect. It's about realizing speaking practice is the key to unlocking fluency.
Makes sense, I guess, because you can read and understand, but actually talking is a whole other piece.
Right. It's putting all those pieces together, thinking on your feet. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Okay, so speaking is important. Got it. But how do we actually get better without dying of embarrassment? Any baby steps we can take?
They suggest language exchange groups, finding other learners who are also practicing.
Ooh, so it's like misery loves company.
Kinda. But it's more about creating this safe space, No judgment. Everyone's in the same boat.
I like that. Takes the pressure off. Any specific places to find these language buddies?
They mentioned some online platforms like Tandem and HelloTalk. They connect you with people worldwide. You can text, voice call, even video chat, whatever you're comfortable with.
That's cool. So it's like having pen pals, but for speaking practice.
Exactly. And another tip, this one might feel awkward, but it's super helpful. Recording yourself speaking.
Oh, no, not the dreaded self-recording. I always cringe listening back.
I know, right? But it's like having a mirror for your speech. You can hear those little things you might not notice otherwise, like pronunciation, fluency, all that.
Okay, so maybe it's worth the cringe. It's like having a personal coach, but cheaper.
Exactly. And once you've tackled speaking, there's the ever-growing beast of vocabulary.
Ugh, don't even get me started. I learn new words and then they just disappear. Poof, gone.
So relatable. But the guide has some tricks for making those words stick, going beyond just memorizing. It's about like really understanding and using them.
So no more flashcards.
Well, flashcards can be helpful, but they suggest taking it a step further, using new words in context, creating your own examples, making them personal.
So instead of just reading a definition, I got to like make up a whole sentence with it.
Exactly. They even had this challenge. Learn 5 new words each day and then come up with one sentence using all 5. It's like a brain teaser.
Ooh, I like a challenge. Makes it more fun than just, staring at a word list.
Right. It's about engaging with the language, playing with it.
Love it. Speaking of engaging, what about listening? It always feels so passive, but the guide dedicates a whole section to it.
Because it's super important. Listening is the foundation. It's how we absorb everything, vocab, grammar, even cultural stuff.
True. We talked about active listening earlier, but they suggest applying it beyond just podcasts, right? What else did they mention?
Audiobooks, documentaries, even news broadcasts. The key is choosing stuff you're interested in so you actually pay attention.
Engaged learning, always the theme. And remember those notes we talked about? What about when we hear a word and we're like, wait, what was that?
It's going to happen. Don't sweat it. They emphasize focusing on the overall meaning, not getting hung up on every single word. You can always rewind, listen again. It'll click eventually.
Patience, young Padawan.
Ah!
Okay, we've covered speaking, vocab, listening, and now for the one I always dread, writing.
Ugh, yeah, the dreaded writing practice. But the guide makes it less scary. They present it as a creative outlet, a way to really solidify what you've learned.
I'm more of a talker than a writer. Any suggestions for easing into it without, having a meltdown?
They suggest starting a journal, nothing fancy, just write about your day, your thoughts, whatever. It gets you comfortable with putting those English words on paper.
So like a brain dump, but in English.
Exactly. It gets you thinking in English, practicing grammar naturally.
Okay, I can handle that. But for those ready for more, what are some next level writing challenges?
They encourage gradually expanding, from journaling to maybe short stories, emails, even participating in online forums, stuff that interests you.
So it's finding ways to make writing fun, not just a chore.
Exactly. It's all about integrating it into your life, making it enjoyable.
Love it. Wow, we covered a ton today, from the why of learning English to all these practical tips. My brain's kind of fried, but in a good way.
It's a lot to take in, but that's the beauty of this guide. It emphasizes making the journey fun. It's not about cramming or perfection. It's about finding what works for you.
Totally. It's about those little victories, understanding a song, ordering food confidently, or just connecting with someone in their language. Those are the magic moments.
The guide has this quote that sums it up perfectly. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out.
Consistency is key, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, taking those small steps, and over time, those steps lead to amazing things.
You got it.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible, but it's just the beginning. There's a whole world of English learning out there waiting for you to explore.
So go out there and conquer.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question. Now that you have all these tools, what's one small action you can take today to keep that momentum going? Maybe watch a show with subtitles, learn some new words, anything. Just take that step and remember, you're capable of incredible things. Until next time, happy learning.
All right, so we're diving into these awesome English speaking tips. And guess what? We're going to use storytelling to help you guys get there. I've been really digging through all these tips, and some of them are so cool. Did you know that simply narrating your day, even just making breakfast or walking the dog, can make a huge difference? There's this story about Jane, who was super shy about speaking, but she started doing that, just narrating her day, and her fluency just took off.
It's funny, we often underestimate how powerful just those everyday activities can be. For language learning, it's all about creating a consistent habit of thinking and speaking in English.
Yeah. I used to struggle with this whole think in English thing. I'd be translating everything in my head before I could even say a word. It was exhausting. And my conversations just felt so clunky. What are some ways to actually shift your thinking into English mode?
Well, that's a common challenge. One really effective technique is to start small. So instead of trying to translate entire sentences, just focus on single words or short phrases. For example, when you see a cat, just think cat in English, not your native language. And then as you get more comfortable, gradually increase the complexity. Another helpful tip is to use visual aids. So surround yourself with English labels, posters, even sticky notes. This constant visual reminder will kind of just nudge your brain. to start thinking in English.
So it's like training your brain to make those automatic connections, right? Instead of going through that extra translation step.
Exactly. And speaking of training, the source material really emphasizes the importance of daily practice, even if it's just for like 10 or 15 minutes. The key is consistency. Think of it like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And this story about Raj totally proves your point. He was really focused on improving his pronunciation. So he started imitating the dialogue from his favorite movies, paying attention to the actor's intonation and everything. And guess what? It totally worked. He started to sound so much more natural and fluent.
You know what Raj was doing was actually quite clever. He was intuitively tapping into the power of mimicry, which is like a fundamental aspect of language acquisition.
Yeah.
When we imitate native speakers, we're not just copying sounds, we're absorbing like the subtle nuances of the language, the rhythm, the stress patterns, even the emotional tone.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's like when we learn our first language as babies, we're constantly mimicking what we hear around us. So why not apply that same principle to learning English?
Exactly. And this leads us to another crucial point that's emphasized in the source material: learning phrases, not just isolated words.
Okay, this is something I've heard before, but honestly, I never fully understood why it was so important. Can you explain a bit more about the benefits of learning phrases instead of just memorizing individual words?
Sure. So when we learn phrases, we're not just acquiring vocabulary, we're also grasping how words work together. In natural flowing speech, for example, instead of just learning the words give and hand, we learn the phrase, could you give me a hand? This teaches us like the grammatical structure, the idiomatic usage, and the natural rhythm of the language.
Ooh, so those common phrases become like building blocks for conversations. It's much more efficient than trying to piece together individual words in the moment.
Exactly. Imagine trying to build a house brick by brick versus using prefabricated walls. Phrases are those prefabricated walls of language. They help you communicate more fluently and naturally. The source even gives some great examples, like what's up or how's it going?
You know, I never thought of it that way. That's actually a really helpful analogy. So instead of getting bogged down with individual words, we should focus on those everyday phrases and how they're used in context. That's a fantastic takeaway for our listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is you encounter these phrases all the time. In movies,
Yeah.
music, and everyday conversations. Start paying attention to them, write them down, and practice using them
Yeah.
in your own interactions.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so we've talked about the importance of thinking in English, practicing consistently, and learning phrases. But let's get even more practical. This source has a whole section on using stories to improve fluency. And I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first, but then they started talking about visualizing the story and really bringing it to life with details. And it clicked for me. I actually tried it with the sample story they gave about a weekend hike. And it was amazing. I felt like I was reliving the experience as I was telling the story in English. Do you find that using your senses helps you remember things better when you're learning a language?
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to remember things that are like emotionally charged and sensory rich. So when you actively engage your senses while you're telling a story in English, like the sights, sounds, smells, you're creating those stronger neural connections, making it much easier to recall the vocabulary and the grammar. It's like turning your brain into a high-definition movie studio.
I love that analogy. It makes so much sense. And speaking of making things stick, this source also recommends recording yourself speaking English. Oh, I used to cringe when I would listen back to my early recordings. But it really helped me pinpoint areas where I needed to improve. It was like having a personal language coach in my pocket.
Yeah, such a valuable tool
Yeah.
for self-assessment. You can hear your pronunciation, your intonation, the overall flow of your speech. You might notice things you weren't even aware of, like maybe using filler words too often or speaking too quickly.
Oh, totally. I used to say and like all the time. But hearing it back on a recording made me so much more conscious of it. And over time, I was able to break those habits.
Exactly. It's all about becoming aware of
Yeah.
your own speech patterns and then making those conscious efforts to improve.
Yeah, for sure. You know, another thing that really stood out to me in these tips was the power of asking questions. It seems so simple,
Yeah.
but it's such an effective way to keep conversations flowing and build your confidence.
Asking questions not only demonstrates like your engagement, but it also encourages the other person to share their thoughts, and experiences. It kind of takes the pressure off of you to constantly come up with things to say, and it creates a more dynamic and engaging interaction.
Right. And they suggest using those open-ended questions like, what do you think about? Or how is your seat? Which is a great tip. Those kinds of questions invite more detailed responses and give you more opportunities to listen and learn.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, native speakers are usually happy to explain or rephrase things. It shows that you're actively listening and you're eager to learn.
Absolutely. It's all about showing genuine interest and engaging with the conversation. Okay, one last tip from this section that I found really intriguing: expanding your vocabulary with context.
Yeah, learning new words in isolation can be a bit like trying to memorize a phone book. It's dry and it's difficult to retain. But when you encounter words in context, within sentences and stories, they come alive. They suddenly have meaning and purpose.
Yeah, they give the example of the word serene used in the sentence. The lake was serene, surrounded by mountains. And it's so true. You can instantly picture the scene and understand the feeling the word is trying to convey.
Exactly. The sentence provides clues to the meaning of the word serene. You can infer that it describes a peaceful, calm, and tranquil atmosphere. And that visual imagery helps cement the word in your memory.
Okay, so I've always kind of found the idea of role-playing a bit intimidating, but this source makes a really compelling case for it. They say it's like a dress rehearsal for real-life conversations, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like a safe space to experiment, make mistakes, and build your confidence. Think about those situations where you might feel a little nervous using English, like ordering food, asking for directions, making a phone call. Role-play those scenarios can really help you feel more prepared and less anxious when you actually encounter them in real life.
Right. They even provide this example scenario of ordering at a cafe. Want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay, so imagine I'm the customer and you're the barista. Okay, I'm feeling brave. I'm going to go for it. Hi there. I'd love to try one of your lattes. What would you recommend?
Okay, welcome to our cafe. We have a variety of delicious lattes. Do you prefer something sweet, or are you looking for more of a classic flavor?
I'm feeling adventurous today. What's your most unique latte?
Let's see. Our lavender honey latte is a customer favorite. It's a beautiful balance of floral and sweet notes.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'll have that, please.
Excellent choice. One lavender honey latte coming right up.
See?
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad. I actually felt pretty comfortable using those phrases and responding in real time.
Yeah. And the more you practice, the more natural it'll become. You can even involve like friends or family members in your role plays to make it even more fun and interactive.
That's a great idea. It kind of turns language practice into a game almost. Okay, so the source also talks about the benefits of joining English-speaking communities. And they share this really cool story about Ahmed, who joined an English-speaking book club. Not only did his speaking improve, but he also made new friends and expanded his cultural horizons.
Yeah. Ahmed's story really highlights like the social and emotional benefits of language learning. You know, it's not just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and broadening your perspectives.
It's about finding your tribe, those people who share your passion for the language and can support you on your learning journey.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is there are so many different types of communities out there, like book clubs, hiking groups, online forums, language exchange partners.
So think about your interests, your hobbies, your goals. What kind of community would you feel most comfortable in, most engaged in?
Yeah, the key is to find a space where you can use English authentically and connect with people who share your passions.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into these incredible English speaking tips. I have to say, I've learned so much from going through all these sources with you.
It's been a pleasure exploring these techniques together. Remember, the most important thing is to enjoy the process, embrace the challenges, celebrate those victories, and never stop exploring the beautiful world of language.
Yes. And for all of you listening out there, remember that fluency comes one step at a time. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Until next time, happy speaking.